This is Real Israel News. I'm Yaakov Linger, and here's what is actually going on in Israel. This week in Israel was the devastating Bibas funeral, the world's reaction to Hamas's latest ploy, Israeli Mr. Beast gave a hostage a car, and a big ceasefire update. The Bibas family was laid to rest and a nation mourns. The funeral of Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir Bibas took place on Wednesday, marking one of the most heartbreaking moments since October 7th. The mother and her two young sons, murdered in captivity, were buried together in a single casket, a final embrace that mirrors the haunting image of Shiri clutching her children as Hamas terrorists dragged them away. Tens of thousands of mourners lined the roads from Rishon Lezion to the Tsoher Cemetery, holding orange balloons, a tribute to Ariel and Kfir's bright red hair, which became a symbol of their tragic story. The convoy was followed by hundreds of motorcycles, Israeli flags, waving in solemn tribute. At the funeral, Yarden Bibas, recently freed from Hamas captivity, and the husband and father of the three victims stood alone, delivering a gut-wrenching eulogy, saying, "Shiri, this is the closest I've been to you since October 7th, and I can't even hug you."
תשמרי עליי מפני החלטות גרועות, תשמרי עליי מפני דברים רעים, ותשמרי עליי מפני עצמי, תשמרי עליי שלא אשקע בחשכה.
He apologized to his wife and children for not being able to save them, despite putting up a fight. Shiri's sister, Donna Silberman Seton, eulogized her nephews, Ariel, Lulu, the mischievous boy who loved Batman, and Kfir, a smiling redhead baby she barely had time to love. "I'm sorry," she said, speaking not only for herself, but for an entire country that failed to bring them home alive. In a final act of cruelty, Hamas delayed the return of Shiri's body, first sending the wrong remains, compounding the family's agony. Their names now rest beside Shiri's parents, who were burned alive by Hamas in Nir Oz. Their faces will never be forgotten, their stories seared in the nation's heart. Cities across the world glow orange for the Bibas family. Landmarks worldwide lit up in orange, a tribute to Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir Bibas, whose murder shook Israel and the world. New York, Paris, Berlin, Budapest, Rome, Rio de Janeiro, and Beijing. The world clearly sent a message we will never forget. It was a small light in the darkness as a former hostage was gifted a BMW. In a rare moment of joy, Shai Graucher, a businessman and philanthropist, surprised former Hamas hostage Emily Damari with a brand new BMW in an emotional video. Damari was still adjusting to her life after captivity, recited the Shechianu blessing, overwhelmed with gratitude. Damari, 28, was taken hostage on October 7th from Kfar Aza. Terrorists shot her, injured her with shrapnel, blindfolded her, and forced her into the back of her own car before driving her to Gaza. Her dog, Chucha, was executed by the terrorists. Graucher, known for his charity work, told her, "Emily, we've just started the kindness. We're going to spoil you." This act of compassion and generosity was a stark contrast to the suffering Emily endured in captivity and Israel has endured this past week. This week has been unimaginable horror. The past week alone, there's been one of the darkest since October 7th. Here's a day-by-day look at what Israel has endured. Last Thursday, Hamas returned the Bibas babies and Oded Lifshitz in coffins. They initially sent the wrong body for Shiri, only correcting the mistake hours later. Friday, Hamas's West Bank terror network planned a massive attack, 5 buses and a train rigged to explode during morning rush. Hundreds could have been killed. Thank God it wasn't. Saturday, 6 hostages were freed, all starved and frail. One, Hisham, was held captive for 10 years. He is now so broken he can no longer speak. Sunday, Hamas forced 2 hostages into a propaganda video, tormenting them further and sending footage to their families. Monday, newly released hostages confirmed our worst fears: chained, beaten, starved, humiliated, and kept in dark for months. Tuesday, Oded Lifshitz, 85, a man who dedicated his life to peace, was buried. Wednesday, the Bibas family was laid to rest. Yarden stood alone, burying his wife and children while Hamas fired rockets at their funeral. Thursday, Hamas returned 4 more bodies, Israeli hostages who should still be alive. And today, at the time of filming this, a terrorist rammed his car into 8 civilians before stabbing more in northern Israel. This was just 7 days, a week of devastation, terror, and heartbreak. 59 hostages remain in Gaza, 25 are believed to be alive. 3 female bodies are being held by Hamas. 5 foreign nationals are still missing. 6 IDF soldiers' bodies remain in captivity. The fight to bring them home isn't over. And lastly, Hamas once again is being evil with the ceasefire. Israel has agreed to a proposal from U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff for a temporary ceasefire during the months of Ramadan and Passover. As part of the agreement, half of the hostages, alive and dead, will return to Israel on the first day, and at the end of the period, if an agreement for a permanent ceasefire is reached, the rest of the hostages will return. Ramadan, which began on Friday night, continues until March 29th, while Passover ends on April 19th. Prime Minister Netanyahu's office announced this morning with the end of phase 1 of the hostage deal, and in light of Hamas's refusal to accept the Witkoff outline for continuing talks, to which Israel agreed, Prime Minister Netanyahu has decided that as of this morning, all entry of goods and supplies into the Gaza Strip will cease. A reminder that this can all end with Hamas simply returning the hostages. This has been This Week in Israel on Real Israel News. Stay strong, stay informed, and most importantly, never stop fighting for those still in captivity. Be sure to subscribe so you catch what's really going on in Israel.